Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Bharadhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Paramahansa Padavajagacharya Stotaras at the Sri Srimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BVD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajagacharya Stotaras at the Sri Srimada's Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Ananta Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Vrihat Madanga Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 8, Text 22. Ye deha bhajas triguna pradana. Ye deha bhajas triguna pradana. Gunan vipasyant yutava tamascha. Gunan vipasyant yutava tamascha. Yanmaya yamohita cetasastvam. Yanmaya yamohita cetasastvam. Vidu swasamstam na bahi prakasa. Vidu swasamstam na bahi prakasha. Ye deha bhajas triguna pradana. Gunan vipasyant yutava tamascha. Yanmaya yamohita cetasastvam. Vidu swasamstam na bahi prakasa. Others. Oh, sorry. Vaishnavis. Yea, those persons who Dehabhaja have accepted the material body. Triguna Pradana, influenced by the three modes of material nature. Gunan, the manifestation of the three modes of material nature. Vipasyanti, can see only. Uta, it is so said. Va, either. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. Cha, and. Yatmayaya, by the illusory energy of whom? Mohita, has bewildered. Chaitasa, the core of whose heart? Twam, your lordship. Vidu, no. Swasamstam, situated in one's own body. Na, not. Bahi prakasha, those who can see only the products of external energy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My Lord, you are fully situated in everyone's heart, but the living entities covered by the material body cannot see you, for they are influenced by the external energy, conducted by the three modes of material nature. Their intelligence being covered by Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun, they can see only the actions and reactions of these three modes of material nature. Because of the actions and reactions of the mode of ignorance, whether the living entities are awake or sleeping, they can see only the workings of material nature. They cannot see your lordship. Purport. Unless one is situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, one is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart. However, because the conditioned souls are influenced by material nature, they can see only actions and reactions of material nature, but not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One therefore must purify himself internally and externally. Apavitra pavitro va savarvasam gatopi va yasmanet pundarikaksham sabayahantaraha suchi. To keep ourselves externally clean, we should bathe 3 times daily. For internal cleanliness, we must cleanse the heart by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. The members of the Krishna conscious movement must always follow this principle. Bayahantara suchi. Then it will one day be possible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Om Agana Tamanandasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupakara Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hare Krishna. Nice to be back in New Dwarka. and see everybody again. So this verse is talking about understanding Krishna, seeing Krishna, and Prabhupada in the purport, he's talking about understanding Krishna, and later at the end of the purport he's talking about seeing Krishna, but it's obviously seeing in the sense of understanding. So actually, understanding Krishna is really not such a big deal. Not such a big deal. Everybody in the spiritual world understands Krishna, and that's over 90% of the jivas. There's that conversation where I think it took place up in this room up here, Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada's talking, and some scholars were up there with him. Maybe it was Dr. Stilson Judah or another Dr. Mice or something. And they asked the question, what percentage of the living entities are here, fall into the material world? And Prabhupada said 10%. He said, and then he paused and he said, actually less than 10%. So that means 90% or over 90% are of the jivas, which are unlimited, but anyway, are in the spiritual world with Krishna, and they're understanding Krishna. They're seeing Krishna face to face, they're hearing him, they're understanding him. So in that sense, it's not that big a deal. Just like there's that anecdote where a disciple of Bhakti True Maharaj was saying to him, it's really, Chinese is a really complicated language. I mean, there's all these characters, and they're like pictures, and it's so different from English. It must be really difficult to learn Chinese. And and there's Gauranga Prem, and he's Chinese. So the Bhakti True Maharaj came back and said, actually, no, it's not. And the disciple was kind of bewildered, and he came again, and he gave another presentation. But no, it's like the sounds are all different, and there's all these intonations, and if you just get it a little bit wrong, it means a whole different thing. And he came back with another line of argument there, and still Bhakti True Maharaj said, no, it's. And he was bewildered. He said, no, it's not hard. The disciple was bewildered, and then he said, it's not difficult. Every 2- and 3-year-old child in China knows how to speak it perfectly. Okay, so same thing. It's for us, it's like, understanding Krishna, like, whoa, that's a big deal. But over 90% of the jivas are in the spiritual world, and they're having no difficulty with the whole thing. They're understanding Krishna perfectly. And fortunately for us, the potential is always there. So it's not like, okay, once you're not understanding Krishna, which is our case, that there's no hope ever. No. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sabhi Kabunaya Shravana De Sude Chitte Kore Udaya. That pure love for Krishna is lying dormant within the heart of every living entity, including us, all of us jivas who are here in the material world. And it can be awakened again by Shravana De Sude Chitte Kore Udaya, by this process of hearing and chanting. And Prabhupada mentions that later in the purport here. He talks about how, he says, for internal cleanliness, we must cleanse the heart by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Cheto Darpanamarjanam, Baba Mahadevagani Navapanam. That by the chanting, it cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together, all the opposite of cleanliness, all the dirt. And of course, chanting is part of the greater, how would you say it, the part of devotional service, the greater category. It's one of the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam. And so, devotional service is the broader category, and chanting is one part of that. So, and this devotional service, this is how we understand Krishna. This is the process. Like in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvataha tato mam gyatvato tatvam vishate tadanantanam. Did I get it right? Tatvato, yeah. Almost. So, Krishna says that he's understood by devotional service. And here, the chanting is being emphasized. But that's, the general process is understood by devotional service. But also it's explained elsewhere throughout the Shastras and by the Acharyas that, this devotional service has to be performed a certain way. It has to be of a certain quality in order to, enable us to revive our awareness of our relationship with Krishna. And there's many verses that talk about this. And one that came to my mind as being particularly significant or relevant was from the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatichaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That if somebody engages in devotional service and doesn't fall down in any circumstance, he at once transcends the three modes of material nature and becomes situated on the platform of Brahman, situated in the transcendental position. So for some reason that just sprung to mind as being a particularly significant guideline. That, that's very important. We have to have that kind of determination, to engage in devotional service, and just you got to struggle. You got to struggle. Because it's a challenge. It's hard. The mind is always dictating, for me at least, things other than devotional service. Go to sleep, eat more, look at this, look at that. It's a constant. It's a constant barrage of bad association, for the most part. And you just have to, Prabhupada said, chalk out your line of duty and follow it. You just have to, make your mind, make a decision that I'm going to, I know what the instruction of the spiritual master is, and I'm going to, try to follow that, try to do that at every turn, at every, circumstance. And if you could do that, then you transcend the three modes of material nature, and you come to the spiritual transcendental position. But it's not a mechanical process. It's not a mechanical process. It's actually the opposite. It's a relationship. It's like a real personal exchange. And how that works is this. And that's explained by Krishna in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says the famous verses, maybe somebody else can quote, well, I'll quote, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mama puyanti te. Can we get some devotee who's been in the movement 5 years or less to quote the next verse? Anybody? 5 years or less. Can you quote them? Very good. Translation? Yeah, right. Thank you. Very good. Big round of applause. Learning the shlokas. So, yeah, that's how it works. It's a personal relationship. It's not mechanical. Krishna's there. He's in the heart. He's watching how hard we're trying, you see. And when we're trying, hard enough, that he feels he's pleased, he's satisfied, then he, to show special mercy, he destroys with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And it's real simple. That's how it works. And yeah, so, and this is right along, aligns with something else Prabhupada once said. Prabhupada used to say, he used to quote his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, as having said, don't try to see God, but just act in such a way that God sees you. So that's like a perfect expansion on that same point. That we just have to try to please Krishna by our service, and please the spiritual master by our service, and then he reveals. So that's how it works. And we can all experience this. Actually, I had a nice experience of this over the weekend. So I'll just briefly relate it. I was with the Sankirtan devotees. We went down to San Diego to distribute books at this cartoon convention, I guess you call it, Comic-Con it was called, comic convention. And so I thought it was going to be really sweet, because I'd done one up in Salt Lake City a couple of years ago. And there was a lot of young people, and they were all dressed in costumes and just parading around, and it was really like, I snuck inside, and it was a lot of fun. And I thought, well, this is going to be the same sort of thing. But at least for me, it wasn't. I wasn't able to sneak in. I was working on the outside, and it was somehow or another, the average age, it was more like middle Americans, and it wasn't like a lot of kids. There was kids there, but the average age was 35 or so. There was a lot of older people, and they weren't dressed in costumes, and it was just kind of like, it was different. And, but hey, we came all that way, so I had to plug in, and so I was working really hard, and some books were going out, and some Lakshmi was coming in, but it was hard. It was hard. So I did it. It was a 4-day event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I did it Thursday, and I thought, okay, I did something, and it was halfway decent. And then by halfway through Friday, I just was like, man, this is tough. And this is not what I expected. I mean, I'm doing something here. You know, some books are going out and some Lakshmi's coming in, but this is like really hard. I'm just running my body into the ground here. And I don't want to do that. You know, I was thinking to myself, I want to do this service for another 20 years, possible, ideally. So I don't want to just run myself into the ground. So I was thinking, but what can I do? You know, we came all this way, and what do you do? And then I remembered, by Krishna's mercy, my old friend, Oceanside. And I remember, well, wait a second. Today's Friday. That means tomorrow's Saturday, and the day after is Sunday. And that's when all the Marines are going to get off for the weekend, and they'll be down at Oceanside. So I thought, okay, yeah, I guess I'll give it a go, you know. But it was a risk because, I hadn't been there for a long time. And it can be very quiet. And sometimes there's other solicitors there. They caught on, and it's competition. And here I am at a spot where there's, there were thousands of people. There was no question of not enough people. There was, plenty of engagement. There was, the whole city of San Diego was basically down there, or a good part of it, And, but I thought, no, I can't. I just don't want to do this again. So I thought, I'll take the chance, So I went up there on Saturday, and when I got there, I went with Bhakta Gus here. No. Anyway, we got there and it was pulled in. When you come off the 5 and you go down a hill and you can see the whole thing, it's like a ghost town. And I was like, oh no, I blew it. There's practically nobody here. It looked like hardly any people. But I think, well, drove 45 minutes to get here. I can't just turn around and go back. So I pulled in. We pulled into the parking lot. Parked. I got out, and I thought, okay, well, I got to give it a go. I got to try. Anyway, just like I started out. I packed my bag and everything, and sure enough, I spotted a Marine. So I go, okay, great. I run over there, and hey, thank you for your service. And that's my opening line with these guys. And they go, and they always go, oh, thank you for your support. And I say, so what branch are you? And they say, oh, Marines, as if I didn't know, And I say, oh, great. What's your MOS? And they say whatever, or sometimes they say some numbers, and sometimes I know them, and that really impresses them. Like they'll say, whatever, 3521. I say, oh, you're an LAV operator, right? And they go, oh yeah, how'd you know? I say, And anyway, so, the guy took a book, and he gave a nice donation. And then I looked around and said, okay, well, at least one book went out, and one donation was, I got. And you couldn't say, and then another one, And like, somehow or another, it just kind of happened. And it was like getting on to the point that I had the desire to serve Krishna, and I had a plan, and I made an attempt. I was trying, in other words, and I was praying. I wanted it to work, so I was trying and I was praying, and I felt like Krishna just reciprocated and made it happen. And I wound up doing, on the Saturday, within an hour and a half, I distributed as many books and collected as much Lakshmi as I did in 6 hours the day before. So I figured, yeah, definitely, I made the right decision. And then I went on to do about 2 or 3 times what I did the day before. So, I felt definitely I made the right decision. But the thing was this, that it was, and I felt very happy. I just felt like, wow, this is great. Here I am in Oceanside. It's, it's just like in an hour and a half, I've distributed as many books, collected as much Lakshmi. I'm standing there looking at the ocean in the distance. The breezes are coming, and people, okay, life is good. Just it felt really good. But it was, I felt it wasn't like a mundane thing. I felt it was a transcendental thing. And I remembered this excerpt from a letter that Prabhupada wrote, which I've quoted before, but, we don't have any problem with repetition in the Krishna consciousness movement, so I'll read it again. And I was reminded, when this was happening, I was just reminded of this letter, where Prabhupada wrote, in response to something Brahmananda wrote to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, this was Prabhupada's response. He said, regarding Krishna's being kind upon us should be on the principle Arjuna followed. That principle is that Krishna was Arjuna's most intimate friend. He could have brought victory to Arjuna without any endeavor by Arjuna. Neither was that principle advised by Krishna. Neither Arjuna followed it. As a military man, Arjuna fought to his best, but the victory was brought him by Krishna. Similarly, We should try our best to our best capacity, and victory will come from Krishna. We should never sit idly and ask Krishna to do everything. That is the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. It is clearly said in the Gita, Yudhasya cha mam anushmara. So ordinarily, we have to try our best to our best capacity to achieve something, and by Krishna's grace, all of a sudden, we shall see everything is there. This sort of help from Krishna is transcendental happiness. And that's what I felt, that's what I was particularly remembering. That I just felt it was exactly, was doing that. I tried my best to my best capacity to achieve something, by going out there and doing the work and simultaneously praying to Prabhupada, please help me. Please help me. I don't want to, have this be a flop. And then by Krishna's grace, all of a sudden, I saw everything was there. So it's just like right out, textbook case kind of thing. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, our principle should be, therefore, that we should work for the mission with great enthusiasm, with certainty for its success, and patiently follow the regulative principles, and associate ourselves with pure devotees, and work being completely in Krishna consciousness. That will make us happy and successful. So anyway, I felt like I kind of got some realization about that, and I actually experienced it, and it was very nice. And and that's the way we want to understand Krishna. Just like Prabhupada says in one purport in the Bhagavad Gita, that during when Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, so many people saw him, right? But they didn't know him from bar soap. Here's Krishna, so there's another person, They didn't have any understanding of who he was. So we want to understand Krishna. We want to see Krishna not like that. Not like the people who just happened to be present 5,000 years ago and saw him and thought he was an ordinary human being. We want to see Krishna the way Draupadi saw Krishna when she was being disrobed. Now you might say, wait a second. Draupadi didn't see Krishna when she was being disrobed. Oh yeah? Well, she saw Krishna, but not with her eyes. She saw Krishna with her consciousness. The story, everybody knows the story. But, she tried different things, and she appealed to the elders and this and that. She appealed to her husbands, and she tried with her own strength and everything, nothing. And then she finally just, here you go, Vinda. She just internally, or maybe she's shown as maybe even making the gestures of, holding up her arms, hey Govinda. And then Krishna supplied unlimited sari. Now in the pictures, sometimes you see a picture of that in the books or something, and it shows Krishna up there, but it doesn't actually say in the text that Draupadi saw Krishna, and he was supplying the sari. What it describes that, the unlimited sari was supplied, but she saw Krishna. In other words, she could understand. It wasn't like she was thinking, oh, how's this happening? No, she knew darn well how it was happening. She knew 100% for sure, this is Krishna's mercy. Krishna's helping me. Krishna's coming to my rescue. That sort of help from Krishna is transcendental happiness. So, she had the last laugh, so to speak. And, she was understanding Krishna. She surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna reciprocated, and, she understood Krishna. She didn't see him physically like that necessarily, but she understood, the experience was understanding Krishna. So in the same way, we want to be in that position. We want to place ourselves, as, in that position where we want to do something for Krishna. We have a desire. Desire is super important. There's that famous verse by Rupa Goswami. I can't quote it. I'll let somebody quote it. But the gist of it is that, if devotional service, if love for Krishna is available in the marketplace, you should purchase it at any price. But what is the price? He says it's just that intense desire to have it. Intense desire to have it. So we have to have that desire to, we want to do something. We're all individuals, and it's not a crime to have a particular thing way in which you want to serve Krishna, something you want to do for Krishna. And so you have that desire, and then with the, how would you say it, with the cooperation, in conjunction with your authorities and everything. We want to do something independent and whimsically, but you try to make some effort to achieve that, and you have to, and simultaneously you pray. Because you got to just endeavor and pray, and then if you do that sincerely, then Krishna reciprocates. And as we just heard, when you experience that reciprocation, like Draupadi did, like I was in my own small, way experienced on the weekend, that's, as Prabhupada said, that sort of help from Krishna is transcendental happiness. It's a very wonderful experience. It's like validating your whole, life effort to be a devotee. Because we come to the class and we hear so much philosophy, and we're doing different things like chanting and this and that, And of course, none of it's mechanical, and you could actually experience relationship with Krishna through any of these activities. But for some reason, or for me at least, it always seems to come in that way, the way I was describing, possibly because that's my service, book distribution. But so it validates the whole thing. When you experience it, as I said, it's not about just like, getting a lot of books out, or a lot of Lakshmi came in. It's about feeling that this is for real. The whole thing's for real, that Krishna really does exist. All these things I'm hearing, they're true. Krishna really does exist. This is all for real. And it makes you feel really good about, the whole Krishna conscious experience when you experience that reciprocation from Krishna. So anyway, I'll stop there. Looks like it's time, about 10 past 8. Anybody have any questions or comments about, Satchidananda Prabhu? I hope not. Good question. I hope not.
Well, the reason I'm mentioning this also is because I have seen, sometimes some devotees who are very, very advanced now, prominent in different other services. They're doing really good. And it was not necessarily in book distribution. I remember I went with, I don't know if I should mention, Charu from Utah. He went out and I was like, wow, surprised to see him trying. But he did, that day, it didn't happen to him. And another time I went with Mahatma, and Mahatma Das. After seeing all this time, and you see the way they actually find out that, I have a desire to serve Krishna, but maybe necessarily this particular service is not for me. So I was just trying to see also that sometimes some other devotees, they might not have that, that skill, or that they have the desire to please Krishna, but maybe that particular service might not be the one that gives them the more results, because ultimately, like you're saying, you're asking for some results, or you want some results.
You're hoping.
Yeah, like that.
To be honest, you are.
So,
well, you got to maintain that determination. I'll tell one little real quick anecdote. I remember once I was in Sydney, Australia, years ago, and I had one day I decided, okay, I want to have a good day on Sankirtan today. So I got up early, I had all my rounds chanted, and I did some reading, and I made sure I didn't overeat, which is a miracle for me. And I got out there to my spot, and I really enthusiastically got into. I went to the train station, Central Station, Sydney, Australia, and after about like 45 minutes, I got kicked out. I said, nuts, So I went outside the train station. I was distributing there, and I was trying there, and I was kind of doing okay, and I got kicked out of there. Oh, wow. So I went down to the bus station, which was kind of near there, and I was trying to get the bus station, and I got stopped there. And I said, oh, wow. A couple hours had passed by, and I was really frustrated. I said, okay, you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm going to hop on the bus, the next bus that comes, and I'm going to take it to the end of the line, because I usually wind up in some shopping center someplace, and wherever I wind up, I'm just going to distribute there. So I hopped on this bus, and it wound up in the middle of some neighborhood, in the middle of nowhere. So I hopped out, and there was, in this neighborhood, there was one store. There was one like one of these, what they call milk bar in Australia. It was like a little convenience shop. I think that's how they refer to them here. They sell, this, that, and the other thing. So I did a couple people were walking in and out. So I stopped this one girl, and I gave her, I was distributing the hardcover teachings of Lord Chaitanya at the time. Anyway, so I gave her that book, and I told her about it, and she was interested, and she gave a nice donation. And I remembered at that time they had these coupons in the back of the book that you fill out, and you can send it in and get a free coming back or a free higher taste. It was like, a way to get their information so we could have them on a mailing list. And so I filled that out for her, and I kept it. She had the book, and she went away. And I thought, well, okay, at least I did something, one or two books today. And I got back on the bus and went back. But I felt like on the whole, I was thinking, wow, how is this possible? I mean, I tried so hard today. I had a good morning program. I got up, I was enthusiastic, I chanted my rounds, I read. I did everything right. I was thinking, so how come no result? Anyway, so that was it. I didn't get an answer. I didn't have an answer, and Krishna didn't whisper anything in my ear, so to speak. So time passed, and then I was on this program after some months called Contract Sales, where we were selling sets of books. We're trying to sell sets of books. So after the program was running for a couple months, it was going okay. We were, having some success. So the devotee who was heading it up decided, okay, now we're going to expand. We're going to get, 3 more devotees. There was three of us salesmen, and we're going to get 3 or 4, and we're going to get some more devotees to do it. So they had devotees come in from other parts of Australia, and we had a meeting, seminar, and he was, talking about it and how to do it and what it was. And so finally, at the end of the thing, he goes, okay, now I want, you, Bhrgupati Prabhu, and, Gopinath Acharya, and Prahlad, I want you to take these new fellows out and show them how it's done. And I thought, well, wait a second, it's not that easy, because we were working from referred qualified leads. You just didn't go stop somebody on the street and sell them a set of books. At least we weren't able to do it at that point. Up in San Jose, they're almost doing something like that now, but we had referred qualified leads. So I thought, well, wait a second, you can't just, expect me to go out and sell a set of books. But he was kind of like, yeah, come on, you've been doing this for a few months, go. Just take them and show them how it's done. I said, well, okay. Anyway, so I told the person who was coming with me, I said, well, hey, listen, I'll take you out and we'll go visit somebody, but don't, I'll show you, you'll see the presentation, but don't expect that, it's going to be a sale. It's not that easy to sell. So I said, oh, sure, I understand. Anyway, so I remembered that girl. I remembered that girl, and I had the card. I dug it out from where I was keeping it. And so I rang her up, and I said, hey, you remember me? I gave you that book, and, back a few months ago, and we met in that suburb. And she said, oh, yeah. I said, well, hey, look, I got this exciting new program that we, want to tell you about. Is it okay if I'm going to be out in your area later on, today or tomorrow, whatever. Can I pop around and show you, tell you about it? She said, okay, sure. So I went to her place and got there, and she was in her apartment with her and a boyfriend, and we had this what was called a broadsheet. It was like this big chart. It was probably the size of the Vyasasan, maybe even a little bit bigger, and we laminated it and had a picture of the full set of Prabhupada's books and some quotes on the bottom and like that. And we used to, when we did the presentation, we used to open it up and lay it out on the floor, and tell people about it, the books like that. So we did that, and I went through the whole presentation. Just figured, okay, what the heck, at least, let them see a presentation, the devotee who came with me. And at the end of the whole thing, I just said, so I'm sure a set of books like this is something that you'd really like to have. So how would you like to pay for it? Do you want to, write a check or do a credit card or just give me cash? And she said, oh, well, actually, check would be okay. And I was stunned. Oh, really? And she said, yeah, how much? I said, well, $800. And she said, okay. She goes into a bedroom, comes back with a checkbook, writes a check for $800, and that was it. And I kept the poker face, I just, okay, thank you very much, And when we walked out, the devotee was with me. He goes, wow, that was great. That was ecstatic. And I said, Prabhu, that was just Krishna's mercy. So the point is that delayed action mercies. Krishna's very kind. That's the point I'm trying to make. Krishna's very kind. I tried on one day, really hard. The result wasn't there that day, but it's called delayed action mercy. Nothing ever goes unnoticed by Krishna. Krishna is like Krishna. I felt like Krishna was in the background going, I didn't forget that day. I appreciated that you were trying so hard that day. Here, I'm not good, but I didn't give you the mercy that day. That's okay. Here's the mercy from that day today. And it was, so nothing goes in vain. No effort goes in vain. If we're trying sincerely to surrender to Krishna and serve Krishna, at some point or another, sooner or later, at some point or another, we're going to experience that reciprocation. We just have to maintain that, like Rupa Goswami says, utsahan nishchayat daryat tat tat kampavada. Maintain that enthusiasm, determination, and patience, and it's just a matter of time. Krishna is going to reciprocate. Nobody's left, hanging in devotional service. Yeah.
I like that answer.
Thank you.
Nothing goes in vain.
I think Archita had his hand up next one.
That was a good question, because quite often we see you're using book distribution as the barometer and yourself as the indicator on the barometer. And we've seen over many years that new distributors come along, and sometimes we older devotees, we look at each other and, wow, they're blowing Bhrgupati away. He trains them, and then they're blowing him away. He's doing 30 books a day, and they're doing 200 books. But come back a year later or 2 years later, where's that person? They're gone. It's happened so many times, I can't even, count. So it's the steadiness that Krishna reciprocates, but also not just a particular effort on a particular day. Because those devotees made effort. They went out to the airport mostly, and they made effort on day 1, day 2, through whatever. But after day 300, they were gone, and Bhrgupati was still there.
Well,
so it's not just Krishna reciprocating with a particular effort on a particular day. It's the steadiness, and Prabhupada indicated that many times, that I don't want shooting stars. He wants devotees who are committed for life. I think it's up to it.
Yeah, we're in this for the long haul, right? Actually, on that note, I'd like to read one paragraph from the Chaitanya Charitamrita to help everybody. This is something that helps me stay in it for the long haul, so I just want to share it with everybody because I think it's really valuable. This is from the Anchalila, chapter 3. I think it's text 100. Prabhupada says, Haridas Thakur used to chant the holy name on his beads 300,000 times daily. Throughout the entire day and night, he would chant the 16 names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. One should not, however, imitate Haridas Thakur, for no one else can chant the holy name 300,000 times a day. Such chanting is for the Mukta Purusha, liberated soul. Now here it comes. Prabhupada's given something really, this is very valuable. We can follow his example, however, by chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on beads every day and offering respect to the Tulsi plant. This is not at all difficult for anyone, and here it comes again. And the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with a vow before the Tulsi plant has such great spiritual potency that simply by doing this, one can become spiritually strong. Therefore, we request the members of the Hare Krishna movement to follow Haridas Thakur's example rigidly. So that's kind of like an instruction. I mean, Prabhupada's saying we're members of the Hare Krishna movement. So he's requesting us to follow Haridas Thakur's example rigidly. He says, chanting 16 rounds does not take much time, nor is offering respects to the Tulsi plant difficult. The process has immense spiritual potency. One should not miss this opportunity. So there's like it's this instruction and instructions like these that you have to take shelter of. You got to take shelter of these types of things, and this is what will enable you to hang in there for the long haul. You're taking shelter of the Vani, and it's it's there. Great spiritual potency, so to be able to sustain all the onslaughts of the material energy. Yeah.
Just in short, Prabhu, I was thinking that really the important thing when we're out distributing books, as I used to tell people when I would train them up, is the quality of what we're doing, the quality of, speaking to people about Krishna and in inspiring them to read the books. On some of those slow days that you were referring to where it was really a challenge, the quality, I'm sure, was way up here. And we don't know when those books end up in somebody's hand, okay, you may have had a slow day, but up the way, how did it inspire people to come to the temple, to go to any temple, to become Krishna's devotees, and maybe become big book distributors themselves?
Mm.
So just a point I wanted to
thank you.
Inject there.
Bhakti.
Yeah, I just saw something. I had kind of like a little experience about that the other day. I just saw something that was like something somebody posted about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. He said that when one's desire for service exceeds one's capacity, that's when empowerment comes.
That's interesting. That's something to meditate on.
And so like a couple days ago, I was just out, I went to Santa Monica. There wasn't really much else going on. And it was just, and every time I go there, I get really, it's like really hard, and I just have such a hard time kind of breaking through out there. But and it was probably like 2 hours or something, I just couldn't get anything, and I was like, I remember I was reading something about, the spiritual master and the disciple relation. I was trying to study for this test, but I was just sitting, I was like, I can't just sit here and read this, and I have to get out and do it, And so, I just went up to some other spot where it was a little bit quieter, and I was trying to talk to some people up there. And, finally, I ended up talking to one person, and he gave $20. He said he already had Bhagavad Gita, and he liked it, so he took 2 other books. And then, like right after that, I met some other, another Mataji. She said that she just took a trip she just got back from a trip to India. And I was like, well, how was it? And she was like, you couldn't pay me to go back. It was horrible, And I was like, well, you must have got something from your experience, right? And she was like,
dysentery. No,
yeah, she said that, she had been laid up sick for like a month or something, since she got back, and she had just gotten out into the world again.
Uh-huh.
But she said that, she realized that a person can practice spirituality anywhere, you don't have to go to a certain part of the world to do that. And so she was just kind of like a little bit bewildered and trying to figure it out. And I was like, well, that's a really good realization. There's a lot of people who go to India, it's just kind of a vacation for them. They don't really take anything away from it, So I just said, that's really awesome. And, so just kind of showing her some of the books. I showed her Bhagavad Gita. I said, this is like the essence of Indian culture and philosophy. And this is, the eternal India right here in a book, And so, yeah, and she was just just like totally turned around, and she took the book and gave a donation. And then, she was kind of asking me about what I was doing. She was even like, she said even for a second she was considering even checking out the ashram here, and I didn't like push it or anything, but I was just like, yeah, just, come visit, so, who knows? I mean, it's like, you never know, like even just, it's just.
Just on that note, just about you can practice spiritual life in any place. Just over this last month or so, myself, Kush, a couple of the other devotees, we've been having a really good experience in that. We've been doing the summer sessions at the colleges. Like, I was in a lot of anxiety because I didn't go on the Warp Tour this year, and I was thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do? What's available? Because the schools are going to close, and then where do you go in Sankirtan? I don't want to go to, Arup Bhakti, so I'm Santa Monica Promenade, really tough. Venice Beach is there's a lot of people there, but it's really tough. So I thought, okay, well, let's try this. And we've been doing it, and it's like been surprisingly good. And the thing is this, that, if you're like somebody, you think you'd like to do books, but you're afraid of like, huge droves of ferocious looking karmis. Well, I am too. You're I don't know, a good company, but the feeling's mutual. But so we experience it. You go to these campuses; they're practically deserted, and at any given time, maybe you're seeing 2 or 3 people, as opposed to when they're in fall and spring session, 200 and 300, or 2,000 and 3,000 people. You're looking over the whole thing you can see, and there's just 2 or 3 people. But somehow or another, we're staying engaged, and we're doing about the same, even better, on some days than what we were doing when it was in full session. So you don't need like some really incredible spot. Just go someplace where you feel comfortable, and you try to think of someplace where a lot of times people act more like human beings, humane beings, when they're kind of like in a more relaxed atmosphere. So just go someplace where you're comfortable, where you feel at home and relaxed, and just try the people in that situation. And you might be you might be pleasantly surprised. I know we have been, right? Am I talking? Yeah. We're having a good experience with it. So I just want to share that with everybody. So I think I can end it there. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.